You're good to go.
Started?
Yes, sir.
All righty. Good evening, everybody. It is Wednesday, January 21st, and this is the regularly scheduled January Water Pollution Control Authority meeting. There was a posted meeting agenda. Any proposed changes or additions to that agenda? Hearing none, we will get started. And I guess before approval of the meeting minutes, I wanted to welcome our newest addition. Would you like to introduce yourself to the?
Tom Harris, Town CFO. That's it.
All right, moving on to approval of the December 2025 WPCA meeting minutes.
Is there a motion to approve?
Second,
Oh, second.
comments?
I have to abstain. I was not able to pull them and review them.
All right, all in favor? 2, 3, 4 yays and 1 abstention. All right, thank you. Moving on to old business, to hear, consider, and act on a sewer connection request 730 and 770 Commerce Drive, previously heard on September 17th, 2025 and December 17th, with decision table pending the Towns and WPCA Commission's position regarding easement.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Robert Pryor, a professional engineer and land surveyor with Land Tech. Before I go over sort of the new information I brought tonight, I just want to go kind of recap where we are a little bit. New year, we started this project I think back in October, November. We looked at capacity analysis for the existing 30-inch sewer line and a downstream 36-inch sewer line. Our analysis indicated that the new project would not exceed capacity for both of those lines. One of the commission members asked us to then look at our existing flows, our existing analysis, and factor in some previously approved projects. We had done that. I think it was 105 and 108 Byro Street. And then Wright Pierce had opined on basically agreeing with the analysis with regard to capacity. And I think that's where we stand with regard to capacity. The other issue was obviously the proposed location of the building over the existing sewer easement. Our position had been or has been that while the easement language would seem to allow for an open cut and cover type of maintenance or improvement of the sewer line, that the geometry of the sewer line and the physical depth of the sewer line would really preclude that as an option in this particular location. I think if you remember, we showed last week how that it appeared based on the as-built information that this portion of the sewer line hadn't been originally constructed via open cut and cover. It was done either through jacking or tunneling. That's what the as-built information indicates. And so we issued a technical memo back in early December with regard to our thoughts, our opinions, our position on some of the limitations of the existing easement and the ability to do open cut and cover. That memo was issued to Wright Pierce after your last December meeting, and then Wright Pierce had come back with their comments regarding our technical memorandum on, I want to say, January 9th. So before I go into the Wright Pierce memorandum, I'm just going to distribute, these are just smaller copies of the exhibits that I have, so that way you have to look at them afterwards. You can kind of, if you can, I have enough. Sure. I think there should be enough. I have 10 of them, so there should be enough for everybody.
Okay.
So with regard to the, I'm sorry, it's January 13th, Wright Pierce memo. The first obvious issue was the ability or feasibility to do an open cut excavation on the, to replace or repair the existing 30-inch pipe. Wright Pierce concurred with our position that this was not a feasible methodology in order to repair or replace that pipe, and that the more reasonable methodologies would be some kind of a trenchless repair methodology for that pipe. This exhibit was similar to one that we showed in December. In the meantime, we were able to find the geotechnical report for the project that was done and interpolated where we think the rock is based on the borings that were done. It's not perfect because the borings, there was not a lot of borings close proximity to the sewer line, but if we take what we have and sort of interpolate between them, it does appear that the sewer line may have been installed in rock, so it may have been cored through the rock and installed that way, which further reinforces the fact that even if you could dig down to it, you really couldn't get to the pipe, to do any kind of a repair on it, especially where it's going, where in the area where it's going under the proposed building. So we kind of think that's, I think that hopefully that just sort of reinforces and gives some comfort to the members of the commission with regard to actually building the building over the easement. Ourselves and Wright Pierce have generally agreed that a replacement or any kind of rehabilitation would be done via trenchless methodology anyway. And they do say in their memo that consideration doesn't change because we're building a building over it. It's present today that they would do it. You would do it trenchless today, and you would do it trenchless it doesn't change because we're proposing to build a building over it. So then further down in the Wright Pierce memo, there's a section called additional technical considerations, and there's four general items here. One is that the main and manholes remain accessible for cleaning and inspection. Discussion about how bypass pumping might work around the parcel. Confirm that the sanitary sewer main can be basically slip lined, cured in place lined. If there was an issue with the pipe, if there was an issue with this, pipe with the pipe itself, structural issue. And then something about that the gravity sewer can be upsized to gain hydraulic capacity. So there's two exhibits that we brought tonight that are basically new that you haven't seen. and that were to address some of that was basically a schematic drawing of how the bypass pumping would happen here. How the bypass pump, a pump would be placed on site, and then you would pump from the upstream manhole around the building to the downstream manhole to isolate that length of pipe that now goes under the building. Based on discussions, we also looked at, so how do we ensure that the town has enough rights to actually perform that work, to actually perform something like that? And so the last exhibit that we had was our first take at how the sewer easement could be modified, or how it would be modified to ensure that the town had the room in order to do the work that would be needed to work on this sewer line as it passes through the property. And if you recall, there was always going to have to be some realignment of the sewer easement due to the fact that we have a part of the sewer pipe that doesn't fall within the easement. So there was always going to have to be some realignment. And so this is obviously subject to some discussion and some thought, but we essentially left the 10-foot sewer easement under the building as is. The pipe is within that easement, and that really doesn't need to be modified. It probably needs to be modified, the language probably needs to be modified so that would be a repair to the sewer line in that area would be limited to a trenchless type of operation. The sewer line for the rest of the property has been increased to a 20-foot width. That's the blue. And that's in alignment with the recommendations made in the Wright-Pierce memo that they've said that essentially for sewer this deep, they would generally want to see a 20-foot wide easement. So that was what we did for that. And that's now centered on the existing location of the sewer line. So then you'd have 10 feet on either side of the sewer line. And then the yellow is essentially a temporary staging easement that would be available to the town for staging, stockpiling of material on the site, positioning of a bypass pump, that kind of a thing, routing of the bypass line around the north part of the building, so that basically the town would have the rights to do all the bypass work in the event that they had to do it. And so we think that, obviously with some input or whatever input the commission or the attorneys would like to put on it, we feel that this covers the town in the event, and it gives you a lot more kind of rights on the property to actually be able to do something with the sewer line. And it essentially, in reality, you really keep your rights under the building because the rights you have, you really couldn't exercise now anyway, just because of the physical sort of geometry of that easement and the depth of the sewer. So I think that was kind of all the new information I really had to provide to you folks, and I happy to answer any questions or try to field anything that you might have that you think we might need to talk about. I think the technical, I think we've addressed most of the technical stuff. I think we've made a good start at addressing sort of the legal easement part of this. And I think this is an appropriate, certainly an appropriate first step, and maybe perhaps an appropriate final step.
So the yellow part, does that have to continue down the west side of the building?
So when I did the, so we did give this some thought. So, these discharge pipes are relatively big, and they're gonna have some significant radiuses to go around. You really can't keep that pipe is gonna come out here into where the parallel parking spaces are, out in the town right of way, and it's gonna continue in the town right of way, basically. It can continue in the town right of way all around. We've kind of thought that, where it crosses the pedestrian sidewalk, we would need to have a ramp there, some kind of a temporary ramp. But pedestrian circulation would then kind of go through the public plaza and could continue, along.
We don't need an easement because it's already in the public right of way.
Right.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, I think everywhere you needed an easement, we tried to provide it. So I think we've got that, I think we've kind of got that covered. And again, we did put some thought into, how that pipe would be routed and how we'd maintain, the idea being here too is that, when this is going on, this access way is pretty much, could be significantly cut off from the user, for the users. But the Commerce Drive entrance would still be available, and they'd still be able to access the majority of their parking and all the parking under the building here. So, they wouldn't lose that much parking. It's obviously inconvenient to lose the to potentially lose the driveway, but they wouldn't lose the majority of their parking.
I guess a slightly more complicated question would be, Frenchless obviously requires large pits receiving, and so if we were just replacing that section from the middle of the building down to where section AA, where would, if we put a pit at that middle manhole, right there.
Yeah,
I'm concerned about impacting the foundation of the building in addition to, can we even fit a receiving or launching pit right there?
So, and Wright Pierce does address some of that in their memo, and what they talk about is that, these cured in place pipe, they're pretty flexible, but you would probably need to, at a minimum, take a couple sections of manhole off.
I'm more thinking if we're not lining, if we have to do pipe bursting or something that requires a considerably larger pit than just lining.
So I'm gonna tell you what I think about pipe bursting. I think that what exists under the ground here exists, it's going to be a very difficult option, because if it was cored through rock and then they pushed RCP, if you look at the sketches, they pushed RCP basically supported on wood dunnage, and then they filled the annular space around the pipe with grout. Pipe bursting, that kind of a pipe bursting operation could be, I think, difficult. I don't know that you could do it. I don't know that you could do it. I think that ultimately, and it's, a terrible situation for folks to be in, but this, you have an old pipe deep in the ground that's getting near significant capacity. And, Wright Pierce, we said that probably the most economical way would be to do some kind of a bypass sewer where you would do, you would do either a pumped bypass or a gravity bypass in a different route along town right of way. And so probably the best you can hope for here, realistically, is you could line this pipe. And that way that addresses any structural issues. You don't get any extra capacity out of that, because what you get out of having a smoother pipe, you lose a little bit out of the diameter. So it's kind of a tough spot. And Wright Pierce also addresses the fact that, replacing this pipe doesn't give you any extra capacity. If your pipe burst this, you would have to pipe burst all the way down to the 36-inch pipe, and you've got, the development across the street here. the 30-inch pipe goes totally under their parking garage. You know, so you might be able to pipe burst there. I don't know, but
But right now I'm focused on
Yeah.
the area that we're talking about giving
Yeah, no,
folks
I-
rights. So
yeah.
I don't really care about the rest of
no, I get you.
the context of this. And so, I appreciate the hunch and everything. I guess my main concern is just that nobody's done a detailed analysis of what is the non-lining trenchless option. If there's a hole in this pipe, you can't line. If it's partially collapsed or something, you have to do some sort of, obviously, as we've already talked about and Wright Pierce confirmed, we can't do open cut, but jack and bore,
Right.
pipe burst. There's always
Yeah.
some sort of a solution.
They're
Not, I just want to make sure we have some cards on the table. Like if we just say, yeah, we'll approve this, we're limiting ourselves. It seems like,
Well,
that's what
I think well, I guess, I mean, if
it's either lining or find somewhere else
If
to
you
go.
don't mind,
So,
Nico with the development team.
Yeah.
So just so you understand, the way the building's designed, it's on drilled shafts that are sitting on bedrock. So the foundation is essentially floating for the deeper foundations. Did the same across the street to support the structure. And then where the rock comes higher, which is the two ends of the building, are traditional spread footings. So theoretically, anything that happens to that pipe shouldn't affect that building because it is sitting on 42-inch size caissons, which are large diameter, essentially footing structures.
right,
Yeah.
Again, we can have a structural engineer do an analysis.
right.
Again, they'll be concerned a little bit about vibration, but that the design of the building isn't traditional spread footings. It's a combination, a hybrid between spread footings and large caissons
Okay.
because of the soils aren't conducive to handle the structural compatibility. Just so you understand a little bit more context.
Okay.
Yeah, I think like I said, my professional opinion is pipe bursting is difficult because of what we think is there. There's nothing that we're saying that you can't do it.
Right, no,
And I think,
I want to make sure that, if we were to agree to something, that we still, I don't want to,
Accessibility
yeah, I don't
is
want
what
to
you're
agree to
getting at.
something
Right.
where we're completely handicapping ourselves.
Well,
Like, for example, I understand that even if it was open cut, we're not going to fit in a 10-foot wide easement. But if we accept this, then we don't even have an option of trying to go for a variance to increase our easement temporarily or anything like that, because open cut is immediately off the table under any circumstance if there's a building over the pipe. So that's already off the table, but now I'm just trying to think, okay, so if we're already agreeing open cut is never going to be feasible here because we're putting a building over it, are we limiting ourselves to just lining? Because I don't feel great about that.
no, I don't think so at all. I think you can do anything. I'm saying that regardless of what you do, it's trenchless. Regardless, it's lining, pipe bursting, retunneling, augering out the old pipe, whatever way methodology you could do.
I guess I'm just thinking even, and especially with the bend, I don't know exactly what degree bend this is, but chances are that no matter what kind of trenchless option you're doing, there's going to be a pit at that middle manhole. And so, one of my concerns is 20 feet wide enough to even put a pit, and can we get the appropriate length? And are we going to, when we dig a hole right outside of the building, are we going to screw up the foundation or anything like that? So
Yeah, I think that
all of those concerns are
I think
still
that-
out there.
yeah, I understand that. I think that, if you wanted some localized additional room around the manhole to do some of that work, that's an easement issue that we can work with. I think that the foundation part, the applicant Nico has stated that, that this is a building that's on rock generally.
And that sounds good. I think, though, part of the, deliberations or discussions would be if we are putting a trench there or a pit there, if anything happens to the foundation, the town or the WPCA is not taking responsibility for damage or that kind of stuff.
That's a legal thing. I don't know.
I'm not a lawyer either.
Yeah,
but a lot of this stuff is legal. And
And
I'm trying to work through at least the engineering concerns, and then I'm passing the buck on to somebody else.
No, I think that ultimately, the legal teams are going to have to
Of course,
work
yeah,
this thing out. And and again, and I think if there was an idea that, hey, we would like to have a little more room, then we can, we can do that. I think that,
We see it kind of as a two-part system. One, we're trying to get the engineering, Wright Pierce, Land Tech completed, where whether the building is over it or it exists today, the open cut isn't gonna be a feasible option.
Right.
All right? Now, so we're saying, okay, so if the technicality that we were asked to go perform was conducted and then concurred by the independent engineer, if we're all okay with that position, then we're saying, okay, then we would like to take a vote on that with a condition that obviously the legal language, again, this is just the first step. There's gonna be a lot more conversations on how that is gonna make the town feel comfortable with their rights and then the ownership group feeling comfortable as well. And some compromise will have to be met before anything moves forward.
Right.
I think that's our position, but we really wanna make you guys feel comfortable that the engineering that took place on both memorandums, that everybody feels comfortable that, look, we're never digging down to get to that pipe.
Agreed,
We
yeah.
just need the best position for us to go in and make necessary improvements. If there's a catastrophe, we have to bypass. And again, we didn't want to go around the street. We were trying to create even an opening going through the garage, but it was creating challenges from a foundation standpoint. And unfortunately, we have to go kind of around the entire building if there was a bypass pumping system in place. But we're talking like, very, very rare circumstances, but we want to think theoretically about every situation.
And I appreciate that, and I mean, this is I'm glad that you guys already thought through the temporary bypass situation, and I feel pretty comfortable with the lining solution under that. I guess my main outstanding concern is if we did need to do some sort of a trenchless, more robust than just lining, like if it's not pipe bursting, fine, but if it's jack and bore, whatever other type of, if we needed to basically remove or completely replace that pipe in there, knowing that we're not open cut, do we have the same kind of concept as you guys put together for the temporary bypass? Like, if we had theoretical, if we're doing jack and bore, where's the launch pit, where's the receiving pit? Obviously, we can use that exact same temporary bypass situation, but I'd like to have something besides just lining.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
I'm just one board member, but that was addressing my concerns.
No, and I think that's appropriate. Like I said, it's a very difficult situation you find yourself in here. So, and I kind of wanted to make sure that I understood that. So, I guess, yeah, for our sake, I think, as shown with the temporary sort of staging, I think you do have that room for the either a jacking pit. The receiving pit's going to be out in Commerce Drive.
Yeah, exactly.
That's going to be out there. And when you start looking at doing that, the bypass may not start on property.
Yeah, exactly.
It may be
It could be
up
one
here
up
somewhere, and then all the way down to and maybe down to the next manhole. So again, I think we've given you a whole lot more capability for the site than you have now.
Yeah.
Which I think that's appropriate, and I think I think you can, it's a good step in the right direction for this property and for this whole issue that you're faced with.
I know I've asked all the questions. Does anybody else have? I apologize for taking up all of that.
So I do have one question. So the last time that we met, there was some confusion about whether the easement said 10 feet or whether it said 10 feet plus additional room.
It does. It
Right,
does.
It says that. What was unclear to me when I read the report from Wright Pierce is whether they took that into consideration when they said you can't ever dig down. I have no idea, but it would be good to find out.
Yeah.
Wright Pierce did not perform an evaluation on the easement.
Okay.
It's not within their realm of expertise. We were not reliant
Sounds like not a
upon
legal question
Wright
anyway.
Pierce. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so they weren't able to take on that type of assessment for us.
I guess my question is just a little different though. Go ahead.
I think that, so I think that, as my reading of the easement was that, yeah, there's some small amount of size not defined.
It's not specified whether it's big or small.
But I don't think I think that's so that you could put dirt.
Dirt and equipment, it says dirt.
Equipment, right, but I don't think you can excavate it.
No, you can't, totally agree. You can't
So-
excavate it unless the owner said, please excavate it.
Right, no, exactly.
that.
So I think that the physical
Yeah.
limitation of the 10-foot easement for excavation, shoring, and all that holds, even though you have that sort of ancillary space on the outside, because you can't make the trench wider.
Right.
You can't do the pilings you can't do the shoring wider. So the 10-foot easement is the 10-foot easement. The additional language that you speak of is, I can put some equipment, I can do my casting for soils on the side. I think, that provides some additional ability, but it's not the core
Doesn't change
concern.
the answer, is that what you're saying?
I think it doesn't change the core concern about getting down 25 feet in a 10-foot wide place.
That makes sense, but that's the question I was just trying to confirm.
Yeah, no, I
The
mean,
language was vague and whether they looked at that way or not.
yeah, no, that's the way I would, I get the question's a good question, but I think it doesn't change the facts.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate that.
There's concurrence with the town's utility, with the WPCU, to that effect. And to let the board know that the utility did meet with this applicant to discuss the recommendations in the Wright Pierce memo. And that is a reason for these site plans that are being shown and presented by the applicant this evening, because the utility does want to ensure that the WPCA is not giving up any of its rights to options for the technical options when it comes to addressing repair and eventual replacement of this pipe, knowing the age of the pipe, and we don't know what the state of repair of it is at this point in time, ensuring that we are not putting our access to that infrastructure at risk in any way, and that comes to, we're not taking away any of our rights to be able to excavate as needed any part of this site to access our infrastructure, and we will be able to perform full bypass pumping. So we did have that discussion, and again, that's where these updated plans with these depictions is really stemming from this evening.
And we will get a visual on that existing pipe, because we'll see CTV it before and after construction. But we'll definitely get a little bit of a visual based on capacities on what some of the condition of the pipe is. So it will give some more information that is unknown at the time.
And
Not bypassing it though, right?
No.
Yeah, okay.
and
I would
It's
appreciate
a lot of
that.
flow.
if I could ask just one more question. You discussed the geology of the site and the drilling through rock. Did those indications that you have give you any sense of where the solid rock would be in this schematic, or?
So there was holes sort of, widely spaced around the site. And so we interpolated, and they all hit rock.
Okay.
And so we basically interpolated between on the profile, and that's what generates that rock profile along the sewer line to show where that rock profile is. Now, clearly, they had to either blast the rock out to get the manholes in, and that's why we depict the rock going down underneath the manhole. But the natural level of the rock is either above the top of the pipe or nearly at the level of the pipe. And it seems to be higher where it goes through the building. This area pipe, it's tough to tell whether it's partially in rock, partially out of rock, which also just plays into the fact that, that area, the 20-foot wide easement, maybe that makes sense there, because maybe you could get to the pipe. If you dug down here, you'd get to rock, and then I don't know what you do, but you certainly don't chisel the rock away to get to that pipe, because I don't think you have any pipe left when you're done.
Thank you. That's helpful.
So Following the meeting, Michelle, that you said you guys had, this addressed you comments and concerns following the Wright Pierce thing, or have you guys seen this? Or?
This is the first time that John and I are seeing this information.
Okay.
Yep.
So then would it be advisable to not act on this and have our WPC, you guys review it first? Because right now I think in the agenda it says to hear, consider.
Yeah, it does.
And I don't know if, until we all, meaning you guys are all in concurrent on the new layout here.
So I think a good and valid question was brought up, Matt, in regards to, for example, the pipe burst and other technologies. And the way this is laid out here, is this allowing us the ability to maintain those as feasible options?
Right.
And I think the technical review up until this point, it hasn't gone that far yet, right? And Wright Pierce even comes out in its memorandum and saying additional investigation, engineering design may be necessary to evaluate what the needs will be to perform that type of work. And I don't think we have the answer to that yet. So that's not anything that the utility could assess without receiving additional data at this point from the applicant. If we want to ensure that we have options other than lining, that will still be on the table for us moving forward. So that's one thing that I would recommend, just seeing the plans here tonight. And again, just me, this is the first time me seeing this plan. I'm not opposed to this plan in any way, as discussed during our meeting between the town and this applicant. You provided exactly what we asked for to bring to this meeting. It's very much appreciated, and it very much helps the discussion beyond where the discussion had previously been.
And then I guess my only other question in addition to that would just be, if and when we are comfortable with the engineering piece of it, are we acting with a caveat that legal gets sorted out without
this-
us then? Or does that need to be?
I think that it also needs to come to the commission. And
Okay.
so this is phase one, it's the technical analysis.
Right.
And then it's the agreement by this commission that we feel comfortable that we're not giving up any of our rights that we currently hold to access this infrastructure in any way we need to access it.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's been proven yet by this applicant, right?
So let me get this right. You're asking me to identify how you would do a pipe replacement here?
We're not asking you to engineer how we would do a pipe replacement here, just to be able to confirm that what you're showing here with this additional, with the access that will be allowed, that we will have the ability to be able to still have these alternate technologies on the table.
Well,
Right, and so you made a statement, you made a general statement here this evening saying, yeah, I think that you would be able to. But
well, I think you should ask your consultant.
Can we
I
provide
think you should ask your consultant if the easement areas are adequate for a replacement, and if all the trenchless technology is possible to do. That's what you have your consultant for. I would ask Wright Pierce to opine on that. They're the experts at this kind of work. And that's the way this should be done. This back and forth with us coming to providing information, Wright Pierce then opining on it, coming back to the commission, saying we don't have enough information, go back to Wright Pierce. It's unfair to the applicant, and we should be, I would ask this commission, ask Wright Pierce if they feel they need more space to do the work that they want, and if this plan precludes any type of pipe replacement, trenchless pipe replacement that you would consider doing here.
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand the scope
I
of
will
work
say
either
that
you're
the-
asking us for.
the burden of proof is on the applicant for permitting decision.
There's no, if I say that no manner of trenchless repair or rehabilitation of that pipe is off the table. That's my opinion. That's my engineering opinion. I could write it in a memo, or I could say it to the commission here under.
So you guys did a bypass plan?
Yep.
I feel really good about the ability to bypass here.
Yep.
I asked about jack and bore. I asked about pipe bursting. You said you don't think it's even possible because of the bedrock.
Yeah.
And I said, what about jack and bore? And then you said, technically it's possible to do it, but we just don't know. What my ask is, and I don't really care who prepares it, but I want an engineer to put together a conceptual jack and bore or pipe bursting or whatever type of plan that basically just shows what would be the recommended size for a receiving pit over this manhole. I don't even care about what happens in Commerce Drive because we already have control over that. But basically just does what you guys provide allow for a conceptual jack and bore of that piece that's going underneath?
For the easement you were talking about,
Yeah,
right?
it's really just making sure that it would be possible, and then also
I'm trying to
similar.
understand, do we have to go to a structural engineer on the pipe bursting to clarify what type of vibration is acceptable?
Right.
Or we're just talking easement? I'm
So-
confused about the scope.
Yeah, so the engineering piece, it's the easement. But then the other piece, and this is one of the reasons why at the December meeting, I said, are you guys sure you want to come back in January? Because like Michelle said, we do want, and again, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to really opine too much on the legal stuff, but that needs to come to us at the same time. We're not going to approve it pending legal. I mean, we could say we're on board with the engineering piece of it, but somebody's got to come to us with the town's legal saying, yeah, we're cool with this option and rewriting
Right,
the
but who ultimately advises you with regard to the technical?
I mean, I guess we're relying on the Wright Pierce report, but.
Right.
But so we haven't seen anything that says that this plan right here shows.
Right, so that's why I say, I think that they should see this, and they should opine on the question you're asking.
But then to what you were asking though, so obviously you described the pile situation, but per my comment before, and again, I think it's more legal, although it's a little bit illegal and engineering. If we were to jack and bore there, if something were to happen to the foundation, we don't want to be held responsible for it. And so there's going to be that little piece of.
I know that's,
I think that is illegal. And to
It's
me, I
definitely way
think
more
that is,
legal.
that is illegal.
Correct. That's why we just want to move
It would be
forward
an
with the
over-
project, because
Sure.
we know there's so many weeds to get into on the
Yeah,
legal
exactly.
aspect.
Right.
We don't want to keep kicking the can down the road, because without sewer approval, we can,
I
some sort of
understand.
sewer
I
approval, we
know.
can't do anything.
Right, exactly.
You know, our hands are tied.
Yeah.
So we know there's this is like a two-part approval system, right? One is like, okay, we know that the building over the sewer, or as it stands today, doesn't affect our rights from the town's perspective.
Right.
The legal side, once we say, okay, we approve this new development, then we're gonna negotiate our new rights to make sure we can do X, Y, Z.
Right.
That's how I see a practical envision of this moving forward.
I see, so the engineering piece to me is about 90% of the way there. I need somebody to tell me that a jack and bore receiving pit can fit there within a 20-foot easement and the staging area and all that kind of stuff. If someone says that to me, I have no concerns. Again, I'm just one voice at the table here, but.
we request that you ask Wright Pierce for that answer.
Okay.
It doesn't preclude us from working on the legal language today. Nothing, because whether Wright Pierce says, no, you need more space, or it really doesn't
It's still
matter.
gonna
The
be-
legal language has to be established. So my question is, how do you move forward with the legal language?
Great question.
And who does that?
Work directly with Phil?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
So you guys work with the town attorney to start that and then once.
yeah, and we will start that like ASAP, but they're probably gonna wanna have some sort of feedback from the commission that says, yes, we're far enough along where it's really negotiate the legal language on the adjustments of the easements. We haven't finalized exactly where all the easements are supposed to go and what our temporary rights are, permanent rights, all those types of things. But can we get a framework of language that we're all working towards, so that once the engineers confirm
Yeah,
the
that's-
engineering,
I see where you're-
then we can just say, yes, this is the new map.
Right.
And this is the language.
So we're not voting tonight, but I mean, taking a pulse, I've shared my position that if we get Wright Pierce or someone to say that that we've got a viable jack and bore pit right there, I'm okay with this concept. I mean, theoretically, how does everybody else feel? Because I'm only one voice, so.
I'm okay with the concept, but I won't vote on it unless we have the legal
I
stuff
agree.
in place.
And that's why I'm just
I
saying-
won't vote for it
right.
unless that's in place. So.
I want to make sure I understand everybody else's position on the engineering piece, because I agree that there's kind of no point in moving forward with the legal piece until, at least in concept, everybody's
They can get
comfortable.
started though on the
Right,
board, yeah.
yeah.
Does that timeline work for the applicant in regards to, for example, building permits that you'll be seeking from the town? And the sewer department would need to sign off on the building permits, but wouldn't be able to do so without this commission's approval on the connection request.
It all depends on how long legal takes. So, I mean, I think if we think we can get language negotiated within the next, between now and the next meeting, I think it shouldn't impact our timeline. So, again, it shouldn't be that difficult to do it. It's a couple paragraphs. But I just don't know what the capacity of the current, town attorney is.
I can't guarantee that it's going to be
I understand.
a long turnover.
Yep.
Let the applicant know.
Yep, I understand.
I mean, given the number of time, I'd be open to a special meeting once legal's all, like, to help facilitate getting this thing done faster.
We appreciate that. And I think if the town attorney, I think he understands and will obviously communicate to economic development and, the various departments in town, that, we're trying to make this a priority because it's the last piece. If people put that time and effort into it, I think we could get there, because I don't think it's that difficult from a legal perspective. But again, that doesn't mean that, I'm not a lawyer either, but I've done enough legal work to know that if the lawyers can get together, and our legal team, who's not here tonight, but has a very good relationship with the town attorney. So they should be able to get where they need to get to if we give them some guidance.
Okay.
You asked for input. The technical concept, I think this is very much in the spirit of what you guys started to tee up last time, so I appreciate that. I don't have a clear idea in my head of what we would be asked to approve, right? And what I mean by that is often we're asked to approve a new use of an existing sewer connection or a new connection to an existing spot. And that's something that we all have experience doing.
Yeah.
But isn't there also a question about resolving the easement changes? And is that something that this group has to approve or not?
Great question for Phil.
So I don't need the answer today,
I
but
think part of it's a
Yeah.
really good point. Whether or not we're even responsible for
Right.
approving that, I don't know that we are. But at the same time, until we have an understanding that the legal aspects of the easement are resolved, I would be hesitant to actually move forward with approving this.
Got it.
And so that's why I was even asking Michelle earlier, like, do we approve this pending legal resolution? But I think we do want to see what that resolution is before we decide to move forward.
I would.
No, I think that makes
Yeah,
sense.
no, I was gonna say, when we did this previously with the WPCA, they did approve it,
Conditionally?
with the condition that the easement language would get resolved, but they did not wait to review that language before they approved it.
So
Because I don't think they have,
But I'd be willing to have a special meeting as soon as that, like if we're not ready for a February meeting, or if you're ready in like a week, we can do a virtual special meeting
we
and
appreciate,
get it done.
we very much appreciate that.
Michelle, who approves sewer easement changes? I know.
I'm looking at the town charter
Because
right
I know the
now.
RTM before, the Board of Selectmen and the RTM have, in the past, we have approved easement changes, but they're not specific to sewer. I don't think, in the past, we may have, and so that might be a whole other situation that you're discussing, that might have to go to the Board of Selectmen and the RTM to approve the easement changes, which, is not time friendly.
Yeah, and I apologize, but I'm not exactly sure the process the last time, and I wish Bill Fitzpatrick, our counsel, were here, because he would probably remember. But we had a similar situation across the street where the pipe was not in the easement as well. It was, I think, a 10-foot easement, just like it is here, and the pipe was not in the easement at all. It was actually way to the, whatever, left or right of where the easement was. So regardless, when they did the approval, they said, we need to obviously make sure, we fix the easement. And so that was part of it, and I think it did go through that longer term process.
Yeah.
But again, it didn't preclude us from pulling building permit and everything else, because the commission approved our.
The key right there.
Yes.
So yeah, as long as our council, and again, I mean, Phil's our town attorney, but he has a firm behind him, so
Right.
he can assign it to the most qualified person to do this. And hopefully get back to us in a timely manner.
It would be, my dream is if the next time we meet, your attorney and the town attorney are both telling us the same thing.
Okay,
I think that would make it easier for everybody.
sure.
If that's possible, great. If that's not possible, well, of course, we'll work with you as best we can.
We appreciate that.
I mean, and back up, we just need something from Phil saying, I'm good with this. That's all I need. If I see something from Phil saying, you guys are
Or
free
what the
to.
process is.
Right, exactly. That makes me feel good. And I mean, similar to Ted's comments before, I appreciate this. It's a true good faith effort in terms of showing how, I mean, this is obviously, as it is, it's already better than the 10-foot wide easement that really doesn't serve us.
Sure.
I just really want to make sure that, I mean, we're near the goal line here.
Okay.
So Michelle, I'll send you those electronically.
That's great.
And then if you could just, like I said, if you could have Wright Pierce opine whether or not they think it needs to be bigger. I think that's really what we're asking. Do you think we need a little more space in order to
I'm
do?
almost just wondering if it would, like a little bit of the triangle heading up towards the yellow, because
Yeah.
you want
No,
the,
I get what you're
launching
saying.
kit to be in line.
Yeah.
So it's because of that bend in the pipe that.
No, I get what you're saying, and that makes sense. And I think like I say, Wright Pierce is the expert on this. This is what they do all the time. They're going to be better off. They're going to be better served to give you that answer than I am,
Right.
quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, it's, like I said, I think we're very close here, and so that's really just the only outstanding piece that I have concerns with. So.
If
I
it's
think,
just our team is shorter.
with that,
Sorry.
So I was just, so Marcy and I were having a side discussion in regards to the question about what town board is tasked with or is authorized to approve easements or modifications to easements. And I was just looking it up in the town charter, and it's mentioned twice in regards to the RTM approving that.
I believe that's
And it
true.
does not fall under the WPCA Board of Commissioners.
I believe that's true, and I think that's what happened the last time we did it. And again, I think the WPCA approved on the technical side our ability to proceed with the project pending that the town was going to resolve the easement issues and again, we might want to pull that language in the approval that we did. This was for 1401 Kings Highway back in '21.
Wow. So that was your project?
Yeah, so that was our project as
That
well.
language.
I can go try to look it up to see what I haven't gone back to go look, but I can try to find the WPCA memo that approved us for that project.
It just indicates that to use similar, you're proposing that the town considers similar.
I'm assuming if it was good enough then, it should be good enough now, but I can't say that with 100% confidence. It was a little bit of a different circumstance, but it should be.
I think it just behooves us to have the correct engineer, have the correct letter, and the correct attorneys, write the correct things down.
Right.
So that we're not like 20 years older and being asked to try to remember what happened.
Right.
I don't want to be in that position.
Yeah.
Can I make a motion to
Postpone.
postpone this
Yes.
to date certain of February 18th WPCA meeting?
Does that work for you guys? I mean, assuming that we
Yeah, we'll
can.
do our best.
And if you
Like I
won't hear
said,
from
if-
us before then,
If it's done earlier and we're able to accommodate
Sure.
a virtual, just special 5-minute meeting to approve this, I'm all for that. I
We
feel
appreciate
bad that you
that.
guys have come by a couple times already.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Item number 4, new business. To hear, consider, and act on a sewer connection request for 616 and 26 Sherman Court and 161 Sherman Street. Do we have someone here to talk about that?
Yes.
Oh.
I'm just going to
I thought you were
share.
with them.
No, just listening. I'm just going to share just so it's a little bit easier for everyone to review the plans and the submission materials.
Sounds good.
I don't think I'll take up too much of your time tonight.
This is it? Or is it that way here?
I haven't. I don't know if you've noticed, I'm not very formal. No.
As long as you do it before the vote.
Okay. My name is Jason Montagno. I'm a professional engineer with Solely Engineering in Monroe, Connecticut. I'm here on behalf of the applicant Sound Development Group to discuss the proposed residential development at 616 26 Sherman Court and 161 Sherman Street. So I'll just give a brief overview of the site before I kind of dive into the sewer and utility aspects of the project. But the site, we are proposing 2 buildings for a total of 7 townhouse units. Each unit will be 3 bedrooms. The site is bordered by Sherman Street on the west and north side, as well as Sherman Court on the east side, and then residential developments to the south. In this, I'm just going to kind of zoom in briefly, but we are proposing each unit on the 4-unit building. Each unit will have its own 6-inch lateral that will discharge to the east, and that will connect to a proposed sanitary manhole within our property. From there, the manhole will then discharge to an existing sanitary manhole within Sherman Court in the street. On the 3-unit building, zoom in a little bit more here. We're also proposing 6-inch lines that are each going to come out of each unit, and that will combine and be routed to the west before connecting into the existing sanitary network in Sherman Street via a saddle connection. So within this, we engaged a subcontractor to perform flow metering within 2 manholes that are downstream of our property. Let me just kind of switch views over here a little bit. I'll actually go to the Wright Pierce report because they have a nice diagram as well. In the green is our property within the 4 parcels. One of the the manholes was metered an 8-inch main, and that was in Catherine Street. And then there was a secondary manhole that was located in James Street, and that was a 27-inch main. We were able to meet the criteria of capturing 2 rainfall events with a 1/2-inch or greater rainfall. We provided capacity calculations, basically providing using the Connecticut Public Health Code for flow based on 150 gallons per day per bedroom. We provided that and also provided calculations of how the current capacity of the sewer main as well as the proposed capacity. So what will happen after our development is online. Showed that there is ample capacity within the system, and we were making a very small increase in flow to that system. We received a memo from Wright Pierce. They agreed with our flow calculations as well as our assessment of the capacity of the system. I'm happy to kind of go into more specifics, but I figured to give you that overview to start and see if you had any questions.
Any questions? Motion?
So moved.
Do you have to read off your language?
I make a motion to allow the proposed development at 6, 16, and 26 Sherman Court and 161 Sherman Street, comprised of 2 buildings containing a total of 7 3-bedroom townhouses with a peak flow of 12,600 gallons to connect to the Fairfield sewer system. The approval will be valid for 2 years from today. After 2 years, the applicant must reapply for extended approval. If an extension of time is requested, the WPCA at its sole discretion may require an updated sewer capacity analysis. The applicant will be required to pay the I&I fees in effect at the time the permits are issued, and the fixed I&I will be waived for the project if the permits are issued within the initial 2-year approval.
All in favor? Unanimous. All right.
All right. Easy
Thank
enough.
you.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time.
That was easier.
Yep. I mean, it's the easement, the new territory. Takes a little while. All right, moving on, operational status updates. I don't think, do I have to read all this
I don't
stuff?
think so.
I don't want to.
Under compliance, we had one little snafu on Christmas Eve. The apparatus we use in the lab for the VOD test failed. The backup membrane failed, and the wireless backup probe failed. Shelby, our lab manager, thought on her feet, came up with an alternative method. We did make phone calls to other treatment plants on that day, but miraculously, nobody could help. They were leaving early. So we notified the state of what was happening. We performed the test. We then talked to our contracted lab to say, please do this for us, to replacement stuff, which we did. We asked the state to review what we had done, if that test procedure was okay and valid, and we got the blessing, so there was no issue. We have plenty of backup material now, so if this happens again, we won't go through this. Under bypasses, nothing as far as the road goes or anything, we just had an equipment failure. So we are bypassing the main bar screen coming into the plant, as well as the grid channel. We found a couple of broken metal pieces below water level. We had somebody come out today to give us a price to weld it, so that should be happening within a week. And once it's done, it'll be back online. So we are bypassing, but not a violating bypass. And the state was notified as well. Under facility, the raw sewage pump check valve replacement. I know we mentioned at the meeting last month that we were going to come to you to look to approve money coming out of the fund balance. As luck would have it, and some good fortune, in our capital outlay, in our operating budget, we have enough money to cover the replacement. So the numbers we were given to replace some of the equipment that we bought were actually considerably higher than what they were. So we were going to just use that money. It's in capital outlay. This is a big capital project. It's about $126,000. But the company that will do it will buy the valves, make the spacers, rig in, rig out, and everything. So we just wanted to keep you updated as far as that, and not asking to go to fund balance. It's not fun.
So is that a redirection of capital?
I don't know, would you call it redirecting capital,
I
but
don't think so, because we've utilized, and so we've utilized our capital outlay account for what we had it earmarked for this fiscal year, and we did have additional funding. Because we were able to come in on some items for below what projected costs were.
well below, one, I forget which it was, it came in $86,000 under.
Right.
So,
But just from a governance perspective,
But it's all within the capital outlay budget, and this would be a capital outlay.
this
so-
budget was approved by the WPCA, the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, RTM. So it's already been through the approval process. So that's a bit, and there's, the only thing under collection system, there's not much going on with I&I, but we are purchasing the Granite Net software for our road crew. We're working with MetroCog and trying to get more information into that GIS system. The road crew's got an iPad or two, and they're working with MetroCog to update our system and get some good information logged in.
What's going on with the modeling project?
It's
Brandon
running.
net reminded me of that.
Yeah, it's running on target, on timeline. We are pulling the flow meters, so we've completed, that's really the longest part of
Right.
that project is the data acquisition. And I think it's earmarked for, gosh, I have to look at the schedule again, to have like a working model for us to be trained off of late summer.
Cool.
So we stay on track with that.
What model are you using?
So we're using PC Swim, we chose.
Are they budgeted to come present to us at any point or no?
We could, if the commission would like a report out, when we actually
At
have
some
something
point,
to show.
yeah, it's probably
We
too
don't have
early.
anything to show yet. The flow, the data acquisition piece of it has been since fall
Right, yeah,
and through now.
okay.
Are you gonna have the whole setup at the facility, or is it gonna be here in engineering, kind of where?
So engineering is going to be the engineers of that system for us,
It would be good even if we had, maybe one day we could, when it's all set, we could schedule
like a
a
demo.
demo at engineering.
Sure.
I would-
Whatever
I
the
think-
commission would
I would love that.
like to see. We're
sounds
we would
good.
definitely open the invitation. But we will, once we have something to actually show, we will definitely invite Corallo in to give a demo. We just don't have that yet.
Sounds good. One question, John, on the bar screen bypass, is that taxing any process equipment?
No, we have 2 bar screens, so basically we're just going around that one screen in the grit chamber, comes back together, goes through the secondary screen that's always running,
Right.
and we actually have another manual bar rack next to it, so we're
Okay, good.
fine.
Happy to hear. Any other questions? All right, capital improvement projects updates.
So I'll run through these and please just stop me anywhere along the way with questions or comments. Where we're at with the Fairfield Beach Pump Station and Force Main project, we received a draft set of 60% design drawings just last week at this time. They're in internal review. We reviewed, we did some benchmarking. Thanks for joining us on that trip, Matt, down to Greater New Haven WPCA. Just yesterday. We saw multiple pump station installations in VE and AE FEMA flood zones installed in East Haven. 2 of the pump stations in particular, very similar in size and what will likely be looks of Fairfield Beach, and we do have photographs that we could share. Plant equipment improvements, phase 1, we had the kickoff meeting on January 8th with AECom and Nickerson Joint Venture. We have the AECom team on site tomorrow and Friday this week to start performing the scoping assessments. And so that's the MEP, that's the SCADA, that's the HVAC for our 4 focus areas for phase 1. We have the Mill River Force Main investigation and replacement or rehab project. We had a scope of work meeting with the investigation contractor. So this is National Water Main Cleaning Company. We'll be executing that contract by the end of this week, and National Water Main will be on site to perform GPR the first week of February. So that's progressing along the timeline that we were hoping for. East trunk line replacement, status quo. So the in-water work had not been affected at all by the hang-up with the Connecticut Deep permitting mechanism that we were seeking. It's the in-road work, specifically in Kennard. And we did receive some preliminary feedback from the state in regards to the appropriate permitting authorization. So we had applied for DEEP's groundwater remediation, dewatering, wastewater general permit. Take our dewatering wastewater from the construction activity and discharge it to our WPCF. We had approved this, the WPCF had approved it because that's part of the state's registration process back in July. The state has a 6-month time frame to review this. That 6 months has come and gone as of about a week ago, and the state has not made a decision because the groundwater dewatering wastewater piece of that general permit has now been converted over to a general permit that just went into effect on December 1st. So it's a permit sort of shell game that the state has going on. So the state is directing us to apply for this replacement permitting mechanism. I have a call with the director of Deep's Water Permitting Enforcement Division tomorrow to discuss the timeliness of this. So once we get that application in the door, what should we expect for timeline? Because we're not going to wait another 6 months.
Right, exactly.
Right. Phase 5 I&I, as John had indicated, no active work right now besides what our internal collection systems team continues to acquire in their day-to-day rounds. But scope of work for design of the next phase of Phase 5 is on our internal calendars for the month of February. We have data which we haven't had from Wright Pierce. So surprisingly, and Wright Pierce will continue on in its historical and current capacity as acting as our design engineers for I&I work through this next phase. We haven't had like all of the data layers relevant to phase 1, 2, 3, 4, and what we just completed in 5, like all together for our GIS, as identified as different layers, and that's including the extensive smoke testing we had performed in 2023, 2024. And so we have that now. MetroCog was really helpful in being able to import that data, and we're able to have a full view of our entire system and where we've been, and then where we want to go next. So that'll be really helpful to inform our internal deliberations on developing the scope of work before we bring it in front of Wright Pierce.
What is this, because you were putting everything through, like in the MetroCog system, is that gonna be able to talk to the, our kind of our new system that we're
Yeah, we're
making
pulling
now?
everything off
It's
of
all
the
gonna
town's
be
GIS. Yeah,
GIS and everything?
yep, it's the hydraulic model.
All the model,
Got
yeah,
it?
sorry.
Yeah, yep, yep,
Oh, that's odd.
yeah.
You said
So-
phase 5, what is it, like 5B?
It is. I was wondering. Yeah, it's phase 5 like continued. It's still phase 5. We're using the funding
Right.
because we had quite a bit of additional monies left over from what we've done so far in phase 5 to continue on with this project.
Okay, so
Right.
phase
So it's the
5.
same project. It's phase 5 still.
Phase
Continue on.
5A was, like, they designed 3 million in repairs, right, roughly?
Yeah.
And did that go out to construction?
We've completed that.
Yeah, okay, that's what I
Yeah, we've
thought.
completed that, and now we're continuing on. And so we'll continue on with that same type of work in different parts of our infrastructure. But then we'll also be using the additional monies in this next phase to pull in the private inflow
Okay.
that we originally had planned to tackle in the first part of phase 5, but we didn't want to bog down.
Right.
It was a big push. It was our largest push of repair work.
Yeah.
We didn't want to bog that down with the private inflow
No,
because
that
that's going to
makes
be
perfect
complex.
sense. Yeah, exactly. So I forget, was phase 5, did it start with assessment and then design, or was 5 design from phase 4?
So we had the SSES performed
Yeah.
in 2024.
Right.
Based off the results of the SSES, we moved forward through design for phase 5, part A.
Yeah,
Wright Pierce had put together the entire bid package for construction.
Right.
We moved forward through the competitive purchasing process. We ended up divvying that out between manhole repair work and line repair work. And so we chose 2 different contractors,
Right, yeah.
In Situ Form and National Water Main Cleaning Company, and that work wrapped up in late fall
okay,
this past year.
got it. And so 5B then is just the private inflow stuff, or what else?
It's
is
private
in it?
inflow, so that's what's coming off of the SSES,
Yeah.
and then it's additional, it's primarily from the data that we have been acquiring in-house from
Okay.
our routine rounds.
Right, so it's not from the 2024 SSES, it's from
The
our.
private inflow
Yeah,
pieces,
okay.
but the rest is
Exactly.
from
Okay.
operational.
Thank you. Nope,
Yeah.
you cleared
Thanks
it
for
up.
asking.
Have you gone back through and checked on anything with our smart covers to see if we've seen any reduction in flows in any bad spots?
Not to that extent, no.
Yeah.
But that's something we definitely can do.
Yeah, to start to look at
Trends,
quantifying,
right?
or at least trying to see, hey, what's.
Yeah, and we
Would be
will,
interesting to see.
yeah, it's interesting to see. We'll have a need to do that as we start to more formally develop an asset management plan. So that's definitely a piece of that.
We've got, though, plant meter data and rain gauge, right, that we could, like, look back at historically and see what the,
Yeah, but then you're still gonna add it, yeah. You're still gonna add in like the new developments and whatnot, but how much is that really?
That's true,
I
but
don't-
I suspect that the I&I reductions are way more than the.
I would think so.
And as we move forward with other large I&I projects on our capital plans, once
Yeah.
we go seeking funding authorization again, Tom's board has made it very clear to us that we will need to support
Show
those
that,
types
yeah,
of requests
exactly.
with the data
Right.
that we're talking about right now, and that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Moving on
When
to.
wetlands is done, that's the one where I really want to
Yeah.
see the data.
Yeah, when East
Yeah.
Trunk, yeah, water crossing's done.
It's gonna be a big one.
We
Sorry.
have some projections for that, and they are significant. Center Street, Force Main, so that one, we do have the funding authorization for since last March. We are preempting that with the work we're doing with the Mill River Force Main. We want to use that as an example to help guide our decisions when it comes down to what does the town want to take responsibility for in the investigation phase versus what do we want to seek services for when it comes to a design engineering firm. So Mill River Force Main Engineering Town has taken on the investigation and the lining feasibility piece of that with the idea that these are actually activities that we could control and we could evaluate, and we could go out to purchase in-house. We have the knowledge for that. We've developed specs for that at this point, and we may want to take the same approach with Center Street because we are seeing savings from doing that piece in-house. We're also thinking that with the Center Street we have the Force Main and the pump station. We'll move forward with the Force Main first because we know the high risk of failure for that pipeline, and then move forward with the pump station. Pump station, I think we've talked about this before. Pumps are the highest priority there. We're replacing pumps. We're actively replacing those pumps. The sizing of those pumps is really important right now with the pumps that we're replacing, like just newer pumps. So we're able to get by, but we have to address I&I for the Center Street pump station service area. So while Force Main is being addressed, we have the next phase of I&I that we're moving forward with. The Center Street service area is part of that phase. And so once we address the I&I, we'll be able to more accurately size the pumps for the station.
How significantly are we anticipating a downsize, or we're not sure?
Not sure yet, but what was proposed in preliminary design is a much, much larger pump size than what we're currently running.
Okay.
And it does seem like that would be oversized.
Right.
For sure. Flusher truck? Your son, target for
February,
delivery.
it's supposed to be this month, but, you know.
You really gonna be out pumping in this weather?
Well, you never know. I hope not, but
I hope not.
I hope not soon.
we'll take the old truck.
Any questions on any of the capital projects? All righty, thanks, Michelle. Section 7, sewer use bill policy, adjustment policy update.
I know that Dave and I promised we'd have a draft policy for the commission at the February 18th meeting. We are on track for that. So we have an internal draft that we've been going back and forth on. I think we're in our final round of deliberations on that. And my question for this board is, do we want to maintain this as a policy, as it's written today? It's a policy only, it's not promulgated into rule, or do we want to promulgate this policy into rule, similarly as we do with our I&I abatement policy?
What are the implications? Because this.
Do we want to
seems like it's just
enforce
us
it,
approving
right? So,
versus
like-
someone else.
So I mean, I don't know how enforceable we want this
Right.
type of policy to be. My feeling is this is a guidance document more so than something we're looking to enforce upon with our regulated community or our customers or users in any way. So I would sort of stick with, let's keep it as policy guideline and not
You might
seek to have a
change
public
here and
For
hearing.
there.
this, I agree. The reason why we want rules is to try to protect us a little bit more I don't see how a rule for this would actually, in fact, if anything, I could see it being the opposite, exactly, yeah. Whereas as a policy, we'll just enforce it.
Yeah, agreed.
Unless we change our minds. All right.
I can move forward through the other items if you'd like. External funding sources. So I had sent an email out to this board in regards to where we're at with the Clean Water Fund financing. We have fallen off the state's draft priorities list for the next round of financing under Clean Water Fund. And again, it's not related to anything we did or did not do. There were very few projects chosen this round. I know Christine Vitale had asked me, do you see it is there like a theme in the projects that the state chose? But when you look at the project lists themselves, like it's just like any other municipalities list. But I think I could probably assume what a theme is, and it's for those municipalities who have the most significantly impaired systems, the CSO systems. And that I see that as a trend for the projects that have been chosen to be part of that draft list. But there is a public hearing that the state is required to hold for that, and it is the first week of February scheduled for. And anyone could give public comment. Knowing that we're not on the priorities list and the projects we had submitted for all our capital projects for that list, all of our current capital projects, we had 3 of our pump stations. So it was our phase 1 pump stations. It was Fairfield Beach, it was Center Street, and it was Pine Creek on the 2025 priorities list. So those 3 got dropped. The impact on our capital plan, the impact on our financial model, no impact because we were conservative for both. We assumed 0 financing. So status quo, no change there because of that. We'd still like to potentially make use of that, so we'll continue to pursue that funding. We did last week submit an application under the state's Climate Resiliency Fund grant opportunity, specific for the Center Street Pump Station, Forest Main's design. Timeline for us to hear back from the state hasn't been publicly announced what that timeline would be. But the potential funding is anywhere from $200,000 to $650,000. We're at the sweet point for that project for the design phase. We'd be right around $400,000 to $500,000. So we'll see how that plays up. And so there's 3 categories for that grant opportunity. It's planning, advancement, and deployment. We've already gone through the planning piece of that project. We're at the advancement stage, which is design. And what the hope would be is if we do obtain that funding, we would be in a great position to pursue funding for the deployment phase for construction.
Great.
Yeah. So we'll see where that lands. Just a brief update on fiscal year 27 proposed budget status. So we did meet with Tom and with our first select person's office last week. I think we had a great discussion, received really positive, informative feedback that John and I are working through, responding to, and we'll continue to keep this board updated as our proposed budget moves through the rounds. This board will be one of the first reviewers of the proposed budget.
Sounds good.
And that's what I have.
Thank you. Any
Sure.
questions, comments? Hearing none. Public comments. Any comments? Hearing none.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor? Unanimous.
Vote, but I'll vote on that.